evening and welcome to the Joust Presents a Merry Christmas, Liam. It's good to be back with you in December.
It's wonderful to be here, Naggy. I tell you, I'm such a Christmas guy. I adore everything about the season, the silly season, if you will. It's the most wonderful time of year. It's fantastic.
To be jolly, to be festive.
It's easy to be jolly when you're a bit more rotund like we are.
Yes, of course.
It's a much more genuine jolliness. I don't like these skinny people
Mm-hmm.
forcing jolliness upon us.
No, of course. Now, Liam, we usually cover Newcastle Knights content, but being the off-season, we decided to do something much more Christmassy.
I wanted to do Love Actually again, but that was quickly voted down.
And, of course, we have to introduce our very festive musical guest, Mr. Bonin Ham. Thank you, Bonin. Of course, Liam, now we've decided to cover a Christmas film, as we did last year with Love Actually, but we've decided to do I think the greater of the two films. Now, I do believe they're up to about 6 of these Home Alone
They've
films.
made several of them. They really have.
Macaulay Culkin left the series and they took a steep decline.
Well, did he leave or did he age out?
Possibly
a bit of a
aged out.
thing where he aged out. They're like, you're not young and cute anymore. You're old and ugly now.
Potentially not a great as film if there's just a 17-year-old kid setting traps for burglars. But look, it's a great.
It's much more ominous that way.
It's
It's got school shooter vibes.
it's all over it.
Yeah.
He's definitely not a well mentally balanced child from all the trauma.
Well, how could you be? He's constantly being abandoned by his family.
It's constantly.
That's going to give you some serious trust issues.
They don't like him. Quite honestly, they really have a hatred towards him. But we started going.
That's it. If it happens that many times, surely it's intentional. Like one time's an accident, twice, I don't know. By the third movie, just like, these are just neglectful parents.
I think that Child Protective Services should be phoned regarding this incident.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at the amount of police in this film.
And this was in the 90s. It was a prosperous time. Child Protective Services were very well funded.
That's right.
In this day and age, they've got nothing.
Yeah.
They're on a shoestring. You couldn't do it anymore.
But we've decided to go with our classic slapstick credit card fraud film of Home Alone 2. I think it's better than the original. Len, would you say it's better than the original?
Yes.
The original, I think, if you cast your mind back, the original sort of presents as a classic sort of Hughes film, if you will.
Formulaic, perhaps, would you say?
Well, at the start, you just see this as like a tale of what happens if a kid's been left alone. You get introduced to the bandits, but then towards the final act, really, it turns into this
orgy of violence.
Orgy of violence and sort of a haunted house sort of feeling of traps and beating up adults and whatnot. But
every young boy's dream.
But coming into the second film, you know that this is going to be the sort of this is going to be the tone. This is going to be the tone that he's going to be trying to basically, if someone is a petty criminal, they deserve to be tortured within an inch of their life, and that's sort of what you're ready for. Unlike the first one, where it was like hello, but this one is more like, oh, hey, how are you? So you're a little bit more familiar, a little bit more familiar, but also
they've got more leeway with the violence because we know what this young boy can do.
Yes.
To two terrible men.
Clever
and
child.
You've got to overstep the violence. You can't just have it, dialed back a bit.
No, of course you can't dial it back. Dial it up.
Is this a spiritual kind of prequel to the film Dunstan Checks In?
Oh, I think there's the hotels.
Just
yes,
a monkey.
Monkeys.
Monkeys are like children. They're not very smart.
Basically,
they've got thumbs.
Yeah,
no, they don't have thumbs. Right?
That's the one thing they don't have. Childs have thumbs. Monkeys do not.
Well, they have thumbs. They're just not prehensile thumbs.
Is it a chimp in Dunstan Checks In?
Is there a difference?
I don't know.
I'm no zoologist. We're not zoologists,
We
Justice.
might have to
apologise.
No one should accuse us of being so. Before we jump straight into the... 1 second, the phone's ringing. It'll be from our producer. Hello.
Sorry, I'm just checking if chimps are monkeys.
Chimps and monkeys.
Just bear with me.
We're bearing, yes.
Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, and gibbons all do not have tails, making them apes.
Very
There
good.
you go.
It's a film about apes.
Those damn dirty apes.
damn
They
dirty
blew it
apes.
up. They blew it up.
Now, Liam, before we jump straight into the film, it's important to know that in Australian culture, because we often get infiltrated with American cold winter culture, even despite it being 400 degrees here, but what I like to do especially on Christmas Eve, because Christmas Day is
get
more of a family.
very pissed.
Very pissed. And what's our favourite pub to go to here in Newcastle?
Well, it's got to be the Wickham Park Hotel. It's a short list of one.
The Wickham Park Hotel, the only place to go to with
Good,
all.
independently owned pub. That's what you want in a pub.
Gravy City is the place to go. You can
And
get
what's more Christmassy than gravy, Naggy?
I can't think of anything really. And so if you're going to be going anywhere on Christmas Eve, please head down to the Wickham Park Hotel. The family that you might not know you have.
See, if you were home alone at the Wickham Park Hotel, you wouldn't be alone because you're with all the friends you didn't know you had.
far less traps as well. Far less tortured.
Still some
traps.
tortured traps, but just less.
Now, Liam, if we enter into this film, we
Do you remember, Naggy, if we just scroll across there back to Daniel Stern, that looks a lot like what my hair used to look like.
It does. And Daniel Stern was in the original film, which was only 2 years prior to this one. He was 34 years old.
Isn't that grim?
Yeah, it is grim.
That is grim.
Yeah, 34. Barely an adult, I say. But apparently he'd already really cemented himself into a life of crime. Petty crime, mind you.
Well, Bushwhacked really aged him.
Yeah.
All that time getting whacked off in the bush. Was that what that movie was about?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was just being whacked in the bush. And did they make a sequel, or was it just a standalone?
No, the sequel was called City
Whack.
Whack.
City Whack. Of course, the City Slickers, of course, was the other one that he was in. But
It was
he
a bit
never,
of a flash in the pan, City Slickers.
yeah. I think not many people recognise him, especially Joe Pesci. Obviously, was a violent, short man that swore a lot, and but then he was such a good actor in this. He decided to be a violent, short man that muttered a lot, and he would.
Well, wasn't there some sort of story that he kept cursing on set? But of course, being a set filled with youthful children, you can't be cursing. So that he developed the grumble just to offset the cursing. Is that
They had to keep reminding him that this is a family film, and so he would just say the swears in his head and just mumble.
I think it would have been funny if they dropped one or two swears. You you little shit.
Yeah, yeah. If there's one fuck, if there was one, you're because the amount of pain that they go through, you think they'll just say, fuck.
That's it. The self-control in these men was really quite impressive.
Incredible. Of course, these men moved from changing their name from the Wet Bandits, which they were in the first film because they used to flood the houses that they robbed, which was their trademark, their sort of signature on their way out. But also, they've robbed film for days as well. So there must be water just pouring into the streets at this stage. And then they moved to the Sticky Bandits. So we're on a bit of a tone here.
Well, to start with the Sticky Bandits, I didn't understand initially why his hand was so sticky, but it was how he did crimes. He'd just stick his hand in the Santa bucket and he'd come out covered in pennies. Now, and the funny thing about that, and Joe Pesci comments on this obviously because it's a flawed strategy. Yeah. They've escaped from prison. They've made their way out, and he says, we've escaped from prison and you're going to get us caught stealing pennies from a Santa.
Of course, yeah. Now, also, this is meant to be 1 year down the track, the next Christmas, if you will. But then they had to escape from prison. But we all know the judicial system basically allows you to be out. If you were robbing a house, you'd be out in about 6 weeks. So they would have been very, very
They must have escaped like the day before they were going out. Can't do another day of this. I'm out of here. See you later.
Now, Len, we arrived back at the big house. No, not the jail.
Now, if you look and talk about what a prosperous time this was in America, that's just a house.
Capitalism.
What kind of job does this father have?
No one knows.
That he has 14 children, a 23-bedroom house, and he just has a job.
He has a handful of children. Very good. There on the slide there as he finds his final moments there in The Sopranos, which is we all know is the sort of quiet sequel to Home Alone 2, when it all becomes too much because he keeps leaving his son. That he decides to
he's learned from the first two films. He doesn't give a shit about his son.
As a short jump of a long bridge. The house in the first one, Liam, and it does pain me a little bit to bring up the first one so much, but it was an iconic film.
Well, you can't discuss the second one without the first one. Without the first one, the second one wouldn't exist.
So many of these tropes are basically set up originally in the first film. So
they're playing the long con on us.
Yeah, it's the very big house. Now, you mentioned how many family members they have. Now, it is a house big enough that they just invite their extended family, being their brother Frank and their
stupid cheap Frank.
Cheap Frank. Who's I tell you what, the actor that
Bet
plays
he didn't
Frank,
chip in for those pizzas.
No, he doesn't. He scoops them all up. The whoever plays Frank does such a wonderful job of being a wanker because you immediately hate him, but you tolerate his wankerish. Like everyone's got an Uncle Frank. We've all got an Uncle Frank.
He's constantly telling you every year, vote for One Nation.
I think he'd definitely bring up politics at the dinner table, and just say, why can't we keep them separate? That'd be basically his tone throughout the entire thing.
I'm just here to discuss. This is just a discussion. That's all.
Yeah, it's the other people that are really memorable because there's so many children. You don't really know who belongs to which family.
It's very confusing.
Except the older brother Buzz, who appeared in the first film looking like about a 13-year-old boy, but it's meant to be 1 year down the track. He is no shorter than 28 years old.
He looks like Biff Tannen.
He's aged so much.
We were watching it with obviously the other night. We watched it for doing this homework, and I said, "Oh, Brittany, that's Butch."
Butch,
thought his name was Butch.
Buzz.
And then it hit me. I was like, "Oh, Buzz, your girlfriend." I was like, "Oh no, it's Buzz." Yeah.
Buzz. Yeah. But he's like almost aged out of this film in the 2 short years between the films, which is a bit sad for him. Well, it's good that he made it in it because he basically hasn't done a thing since. We have never seen.
Have you
this
been
character.
keeping tabs on this man's career?
We can look back and just say, what did he do after that? Nothing.
I saw him in one film.
One film.
Yeah, he didn't age well.
No, it's very,
he wasn't good looking. Here, look at the Barry Beef on him there.
Well, if he ages that much in 2 years, God forbid what he did with the rest of his career, he'd have to play, a senile old man. That'd be the only thing. And that might have only been 4 years after this.
Impressive hair, though, I will say.
Great set of.
It's so high. The hair's high.
Of locks.
I love a good high haircut.
The character of really the house is a character as well in the first film. You get to know the house.
Michael Mann's the keep.
Yes, you get to know.
The castle is the protagonist.
Everything's very red and green. They style it. It's very Christopher Columbus-y. They make it very, very Christmassy inside. And everyone, as you said, Liam, you think, hang on a second, why does any family grow up in a house like this? It's nothing short of a mansion. This is be a house that, if you think to yourself when you're 10 years old, if I was rich, I would buy probably this house.
Absolutely. But again, at the time, such a prosperous time for America, it was a hovel.
It was just a basic house, apparently, they say.
I remember even when we were growing up, we had friends and they had the good rooms. What's the good room?
Yeah.
We go in the good room. No, you can't go in the good room.
Yeah, all we had as Australians is when you go around to someone that you might know, maybe a cousin's house, and they had ice coming straight out of the fridge. And you think, whoa. Well, hello.
I didn't know you were cousins with Bill Gates.
This is royalty.
Jesus.
This is absolute royalty. You think, I don't have this.
I bet they had a water dispenser on it as well.
They had everything. Water, you can tap for water, press the button for ice. Sometimes it was plumbed.
Perhaps a pool.
Oh, yeah.
It's always good having a pool as a cousin.
Yeah, because you go around there, enjoy the pool until everyone says, get out of the pool, and you say no, and then you have a big fight with your parents. That's sort of what Christmas is all about. We're also very quickly introduced with what I like to call a Chekhov's voice recorder here, because it becomes very, very important later on. It's the talk boy, Liam.
Talk boy.
Now, this was...
I thought it was Talk Man because it was a play on Walkman. Is that... Because I remember at the time thinking, what is this thing that this boy has? So it is a talk boy, right? I've been going along thinking it was called a talk man.
Yeah.
But did anyone have this as a kid? Joust, call in and let us know.
Please,
did you have a talk boy?
Apparently it was introduced after the film was released. And 1 second. Hello, Just Christmas.
I did not have a talk boy.
No talk boy. Thank you very much. And that was Macaulay. Apparently, he had to give it back after the filming was done. Now, the talk boy was basically a voice recorder, like a tape recorder that you would have, if you were in the 90s and you wanted to record anything, you just have the tape recorder going and then you can listen back to it at a later date.
It was a good practical system.
But apparently they released this after it, and it was just a tape recorder, and everyone was very upset that they couldn't fool, staffs of hotels and create much mischief with because it was the immediate playback.
Yeah, not only that, it was the immediate playback, but you could slow it down so it sounds like your father.
The father.
Father. Hello, yeah. I'm the father.
Yeah, it's like slow it down, speed it up, and the speaker on this is apparently, in the film immense because it can fill an entire bathroom.
Yeah, but it was the size of a
size
you
of
see.
it was pocket sized.
Pocket
It was
sized.
pocket sized, but apparently it was a load of shit. Just like it was made as a because a tape recorder is pretty flush, but this is just it's got like a dongle thing sticking out the top of it like a microphone. But the tape recorder also has a microphone. That's the point of it recording. If it doesn't have one, it just simply ceases to exist.
So the product was redundant.
It was a redundant product.
It was a
yeah.
redundant product.
They really cashed in on this film, and in many ways that you'd see now with product
Well,
placement.
that's the way of capitalism, though, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I
Let's
think
take
so.
something that brings us Christmas joy and fun and monetize
And
it.
monetize
Yeah,
it,
that's
yeah.
all Christmas is nowadays. It's various monetizations.
Now the family is getting together, but before they go on holiday, Liam, they have to go to a Christmas recital.
There's
Now,
always a Christmas recital. Do you
Yeah.
remember being in Christmas recitals when you were a youth?
I tell you what, when I was young, I was in the choir. Like,
Yeah, same.
yeah, but we never had like a big Christmas recital. Now, one of the
Not
first
even at that good Catholic school?
Yeah, apparently not. The family has basically forgotten Kevin's sort of tragic last Christmas, and despite it being Christmas
They're
again,
a family of short mememories, aren't they?
they just treat him like absolute shit. And so, straight off the
Yeah, Buzz in this bloody, this friggin' Christmas recital.
In the
Buzz is
recital.
just going nuts.
well, there's a few questions
Yeah.
that I like to raise. One,
Buzz is up there lighting him up like he's Richard Pryor, clowning on him all night,
he's a-
just roasting him.
the question that I would have to ask is why is Kevin, who is aged no more than about 10 years old, in a choir with his brother, who again is 28?
It's a small school. They only had the choir was all just people who lived in their house.
Apparently, yeah, it was a house choir. They've managed to put someone right next to Buzz who also looks to a similar age. He could be a teacher at the school, just to give it a bit of reference that Buzz isn't the oldest person in this choir by a matter of some years.
He looks like Henry Hill in Goodfellas. Not when he was young, not when he was old, but he's like the
Middle,
in-between
yeah.
Henry Hill. He's like the middle step.
He probably could have been cast in this if he played his cards right. This actor off to the right of Buzz.
It's Ray Liotta.
Could have
Ray
been.
Liotta.
Joe Pesci could have got him in.
Joe Pesci could have pulled some strings.
No, Pesci wouldn't have been seen above the small children in front of him. But the thing that irks me, Naggy, about this scene, the
Yes.
thing that really made me concern again for Kevin's safety is when, obviously he reacts to Buzz just scatting and beatboxing and booming him.
Yep.
And then they all yell at Kevin and laugh at him.
Well, this is
as though it was his fault.
This is the
He's
big-
the victim here.
There's two problems that I have with this, and one of them being that Buzz's lampooning is probably Chuckleworth at best. There's a bit of a, it's raucous laughter.
And all the parents are joining in.
All
too.
the parents joining in. It seems like it's as you said, it was a Richard Pryor a comedy scene. It was something like, oh, I can't believe he's doing this and doing it so well, even though part of it is just sticking the candles behind Kevin's ears during his solo.
As though they were ears.
Yeah,
perhaps.
like playing drums on his head and whatnot.
that frame grab we've got there, Joust, is if you'll have a what an erotic face Buzz is making.
Oh, yes.
He's got a lower lip bite and is slightly squinty.
Well, he is old enough.
What's he thinking? What's he holding those sticks thinking? Do you reckon?
He's old enough. He's old enough to be thinking whatever he likes because, again, he is 36 years old in this
But
film.
it's his right as a taxpayer, as a voter.
Yeah,
he can do what he wants.
Apparently not old enough to say, guess what, guys? I don't want to be in the choir this year. There was something that he had to do.
Yeah.
Now, as you said, like, he was lampooning Kevin during his...
What a lampoon it was.
during his solo, because of course all Christmas recitals in a choir you have a solo.
You have to have a solo.
Kevin also, Macaulay Culkin, sings like someone who was about 10. He's a bit falsetto. What do they call those?
Castrato.
A castrato.
They chop the fellas off so you can still sing high.
Yes. It seems like it was a bit of the.
Do you reckon they draw straws for that, or is it, some kid like, I'm sick of these things clanging around between my legs. Get rid of them. I want to be a beautiful singer.
Well, I suppose they only went after the best singers, but you'd think if you knew what was coming, you'd say,
I'd shit the bed immediately.
would you say, too bad George got his bloody testicles cut off? I'd be like, guess what, guys? I'm not a very good singer anymore. I'm not really hitting those notes.
I play a great drum.
Yeah.
Get me out of here.
Get me out of here.
And then we follow on, of course, and Buzz, he has the heartfelt emotional plea
Yeah, he does,
to
to the
beg
family.
forgiveness. But it's all a facade. He's
of
not
course.
truly apologetic.
Of course,
he's really quite psychopathic. Buzz.
Well, again, it must run in the family. These psychopathic children.
There's
of
real
this
fucked up families.
that they decide
See,
to
kids'
have.
movies used to be dark.
Yeah. Well, this is.
Oh my God! Look at Uncle Frank's outfit. He's just he's got his bloody tartan pajamas on. He's got a Jimmy, what do you call that? A tam o' shanter hat.
A Peaky Blinder, yeah.
And then just a trench coat covering it all up.
We'll certainly get to the airport scene in a few moments, Liam. But before, as you said, like he says, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I believe, and it makes a heartfelt apology. But only before
Get his
looking...
fingers crossed behind his back the whole time.
Well, he looks down to Kevin and says very quietly, despite the entire room not making any noise, still watching him, and calls him a trout sniffer. Now, a trout sniffer.
Where the hell did that come from?
Is that a gay slur?
I don't know. I think it might be.
It's a trout being a fish.
Yes.
And a sniffer being someone who
Again,
sniffs.
we're no zoologists, but I believe a trout is a fish.
I believe a trout is a fish. He says, how about that, you trout sniffer?
And I believe trout sniffer pops up again later in the movie.
He forces Kevin into saying basically, this
Yes,
wasn't...
I sniff trouts. I apologize. I'm sorry, world.
This wasn't my fault. I was humiliated.
It wasn't.
No,
he was humiliated.
Humiliated in front of what apparently the town is about 1,000 people that come to watch these recitals, and apparently even though everyone witnessed the humiliation, he wasn't just pinching him behind his back or something to say, "Oh, you've reacted poorly." No, but to push him, the entire choir collapses, and the woman playing the piano is launched from the stage in a very comical way. But it sort of it lends itself to this film. But apparently, again, Kevin is blamed.
What about that film we need to talk about, Kevin? Is that this Kevin?
Apparently, well, I tell you what,
I believe he becomes a murderer.
I don't know about the family, but they do a lot of holiday planning, and they might need to, I don't know, contact some sort of psychologist to just speak to Kevin about his ongoing trauma and bad behaviour. So the entire family blames Kevin for this this embarrassment, even though they're all fucking off the next day.
Because that's the other thing. Remember, there was such prestige to being in the school play. If you embarrass your family, God forbid, in front of the entire community, that's, you're dead. You're socially, it's suicide.
Now, this film likes to hit the beats of the original film, and almost some would say it's a very, very similar film to the first one.
Some would,
despite it being called Home Alone 2. We don't usually get many twos. Like
not anymore.
Gladiator, we've got Gladiator.
Well, that's
2.
what I really love about Ripley. He's just like, I'm doing another Gladiator. Two. Yeah,
it was either that or Gladiator
again.
Yeah.
Gladiator, but a different one.
Even though it's called Lost in New York as its full title, even though the character is Home Alone Lost in New York, he's neither home nor rarely is he lost throughout the entire film.
And you're not really alone. If you're in a city with 10 million people, how can you be alone?
Yeah, it should be lost in sort of Tucson, Arizona, maybe, where it's a little bit more sparse. So after the torment and the family says to Kevin,
this is all your fault,
all
Kevin.
your fault. What could possibly
You
go
have
wrong?
ruined Christmas.
He gets told he has to go upstairs to the attic and sleep up there.
Scary room in the attic.
Apparently
we don't have them much in this country because it's too hot. The heat rises, you see.
Well, there's attics.
Science.
But in America, they make entire rooms out of attics.
Yeah, we lived in an attic briefly in Canada.
Really? Yeah.
Vancouver in 1994.
Cold?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
We also lived in an RV on the side of the train tracks quite briefly.
You've lived in some interesting places.
I have.
He must return to like any sort of mattress and go, God, this is great.
Floor, fantastic. Tiled floor in the airport, comfortable, very good.
Now to hit the same beats of the previous film, after he's thrown up into
flag,
thrown up in the attic.
Yeah, that's an interesting flag.
That's the trout sniffer flag.
Is there any vexillologists among the crowd?
It's the flag of trout.
And I tell you, that's a pretty well equipped pull-out sofa in the attic. They kept it there clearly just for punishment, but they put the good doona on it.
It's also got a lamp. It seems to got a heater. It's basically better than 9 out of the 10 houses
punishment at all.
that I've ever lived in. It's wonderful. But again, this is what the ultra wealthy do. They punish
Your
people.
punishment is going into a large plush sofa with several doonas, and it is Christmas themed.
To hit the beach slam, of course, they have to wake up and they realize they'd missed their alarm for their big trip to Florida this year. Florida is where the family's going. Paris was last time. Florida was this year. Also, catastrophic last year as far as planning. You'd think they would just be like, guess what, guys? Maybe we should go a week earlier.
You think you'd learn.
Take the kids
or
out
maybe
of
even
school.
the day before. Like, look, guys, we know what happened last year. We forgot one of our children. That's unforgivable, really,
Yes,
as a
yeah.
parent. Maybe we should make sure the day before we'll have a roll call or something. We'll say at this hour we should wake up. Let's just double check. We'll just double check.
Double check
I
everyone.
think it's better to miss a flight than to miss a child.
Maybe just have a wind-up alarm clock. I don't know, one that's on battery. I don't know, something that order a
So do they just sleep? I don't recall. Do they just
I can't
sleep
remember the
through it, or
reason
does
for
the battery die.
I can't remember the reason for this particular one, but they sleep through. So
I remember in Seinfeld where he goes, separate knob. Why a separate knob?
yeah, the separate knob.
It's a separate knob. He meant to hit the snooze, but he hit the FMAM or something.
Oh no, that was was it the minutes to the volume? I can't remember the exact.
It was the separate knob.
The volumes.
Why separate knob? Why?
Well, we got this still up, but this is the lovely Catherine O'Hara,
What
which
an actress.
Oh, I know.
What a leading lady.
a fellow Canadian as well.
She is,
Liam.
yes.
Yeah.
Of course, star of the show Schitt's Creek, one of the great Canadian programs.
What's her name? Does
existing
anyone
on
know her
television.
name in Schitt's Creek?
Moira.
Moira, yeah.
Moira.
Who's just a
David.
wonderful, like sort of
Fantastic.
relaxed, probably someone that
I would argue she's not relaxed. She's the most uptight person. She's just on a lot of downers.
It seems like she's dipped into.
She's got a terrible drug problem.
It seems like the Xanax gets a good run, but yeah,
Something that my wife and I was talking about. Whenever the baby's brought up, she goes, David, the baby.
the baby.
Where is the baby?
It's excellent Canadian
What a woman,
series
yeah.
there. So I do have a soft spot for Ms. O'Hara. But
Piercing blue eyes.
now there's a bit of a rug pull here where they sort of, well, I'm not sure if it's a rug pull, but it's a bit of a bait and switch, I guess, where they say, oh, hang on a second. Even though they're still in their driveway, they say, where's Kevin?
Well, that's it. You think, oh, hang on, they have accounted for the boy that they didn't account for the year
First
before.
time. And then he appears and says, I'm here.
Is it a red herring, perhaps, that he says he's here?
Everyone calm down. They pile into the vans to take them straight to the airport.
So he said, I'm here. And they say, oh, shut up.
They say,
Shut up.
They say, why are you here? We hate you. Because again, there's family in tight.
Buzz is going, we wish you weren't.
He doesn't even have camaraderie with the children. Every single person does not want Kevin to go on holidays with them, even though it is only to Florida.
He's definitely got something that's undiagnosed.
They maybe a bad smell or something. I don't know. He just seems to like, and no one gives him any respect. Now they go to the
He
airport.
still pisses the bed, which at that age is unacceptable.
Well, there's a bit of that in the first. They threatened to put him with his actual human brother, who's playing.
Unlike his chimp brother.
His just chimp brother.
No
of course.
prehensile thumbs.
No thumbs. His human brother, who's named. He's in
Kieran Culkin?
Kieran Culkin.
Well,
Kieran Culkin.
he looks like White Urkel.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
young
They
boy.
put some dumb glasses on him and,
And
say he's his
suspenders.
cousin. Yeah,
I think he has a bow tie even.
Yeah, all that nonsense.
He looks like a dickhead.
Yeah, and because they're like, oh, he wets the bed, and the kid. This is the first film. He's proud of it. He like holds up the Diet Coke he's drinking. He's like, I do still wet the bed.
Was he holding that up like a threat? Like, yeah, come on, Kevin. The
Kid's like 7
Jump
years.
in with me, bud.
7 years old. Again, get these children some, I don't know, some clinical therapy, something. These trauma is bleeding through.
Kevin, if you miss this plane, I'll breastfeed you again.
yeah. That's basically
We're taking it back.
The empty thread is like you got to be with your breastfed weird cousin who's still pissing the bed out of fear because his father, who's Frank, is just a wanker.
Cheapskate.
A cheapskate wanker.
Such a mooch, Uncle Frank.
He is.
Such a mooch. No wonder his kid pisses the bed at 7 years
You
old.
do get a little bit of Uncle Frank retribution here, where Kevin does say when he storms off, which I think is like the real stamp on why he's separated, is though I would hate to think that you have to dip in your own pocket, you cheapskate, which is a great thing for a child to say
For a
to
child
an
to say,
adult.
yeah. That's it. If you're so cheap that a child is noticing,
Yeah, you really should pick up your game, Uncle Frank. Maybe just pick up the cab. I don't know. There's something to show that you know.
pizzas maybe.
Yeah, well, the pizzas
That's
are
the
the
other
first
thing.
film.
There's 50. No, because we got pizzas. If we
That's
just
first film.
Four pizzas between 15 people.
No, there's a lot of pizzas.
That's what
but
I
there's-
always hate that about movies. Where like, oh, there's 20 of us together. Let's get 2 pies.
Now, the lovely house that we all know well, where they just abandon that immediately with the entire cast, and they head off to the airport, Liam. Now, the airport scene is, again, a rush. They're told that they can't all sit together. They're barely on the same flight. Again, with a bit of pre-planning, maybe a month before, they could have just said, hey, guess what? We're sitting together. It's fine. But apparently it was just to go to Florida at Christmas is a mad scramble.
Well, you got to remember, this is a pre-9/11 world. If you scramble in an airport now, you're getting 3 warning shots in your back.
Bang! That's all you hear. Is the last thing you do
It's a taser with your name on it.
before your emptied skull hits the ground. And there is a bit of, there is definitely some. I'm not going to say plot holes, but it was a pre-9/11 world that they were living in. Now, this is when they reached the airport. Now, it was a mad scramble to get to the plane. And now Kevin desperately wants to get some batteries for his shit talk boy out of the bag. So his father says, take my bag.
Probably use about 14 AAs.
There's also a thing when he says, take my bag, there's an envelope of cash in there. It has to be several thousands of dollars. Again, this is how rich this man is. He has,
it's as though they've no ATMs in Florida.
Apparently there's no ATMs
Do they
in
use
Florida.
American currency? I don't know.
If they were going overseas, you'd be like, maybe I'm going to take some
traveller's
cash.
checks.
Yeah, and you'd exchange.
Remember traveller's checks?
I remember checks. I never did much traveling though. So he takes all this money, but he's like, I've got the wallet there. I've got batteries in my bag. Take the bag, but we're running. We're running to the gate. Now, there's no security checkpoints whatsoever in this airport.
No,
They go
again,
from
pre-9/11 world.
Pre-9/11 world, and then Kevin looks down for probably about 45 minutes into this bag to get the batteries in.
There's a lot of rustling.
I don't know.
A lot of rustling.
I don't know what he was planning on recording in the airplane, but something he needed the talk boy to be up and working. So he looks in there, takes the
What's
bag.
his favourite toy?
In fact, it is his favourite toy. And they all start running, but then he glances up and he sees a man, but it's not his father.
But he's wearing the same coat as his father, you see.
it's
That's the trick.
It's a similar jacket. Now
Chekhov's jacket.
He doesn't have to follow any of the other 37 people in his family. He just keeps he's fixated on his dad, and he says there he is, and he goes off to another flight because this man again remotely looks like his dad from behind, and this child apparently might need some big Urkel glasses like his cousin.
His brother cousin has glasses.
His brother cousin has glasses because Kevin can't see anything. So again, this ultra wealthy family is in a mad rush to get to their plane because God forbid they have to give the airline some extra money to get to where they need to go.
Well, I remember they say, you can't get an extra flight out of here.
Why
it's the
not?
only flight.
Why not?
Because the flights are booked.
I don't know.
They're booked.
Surely. So this is where the realism slowly takes a dip when he runs to the plane with his ticket in hand, but he bumps into the woman there.
And they have a humorous, she drops all the things and just goes, just go. I'm too busy to pick up all these things.
They go.
How can I pick up all of these 4 tickets?
4 tickets
that are all over the floor.
Do it.
They're everywhere. There's one here. There's one there. There's one there. Scoop, bitch.
Scoop. A child with a backpack running through the airport says, I need to get on that flight. And she says, okay, that's apparently fine in a pre-9/11 world.
At least in Love Actually, in a post-9/11 world, they had armed guards chasing the boy.
They were ready to shoot that boy.
They were ready to shoot that boy. It's only by the grace of God that he didn't drain out on the floor there.
There is a point where they said, we better get some management involved here. So they asked the senior person, and he just says, board him, but make sure he not only not reunites with his family, just sights him from a distance. So they go on the plane,
he's good.
And he goes, there's my dad, I think. That's the guy this is the man I've been following for the last 12 minutes in a
So
mad
there's
scramble.
a fella.
And she says, find an empty seat. And apparently in this booked out sort of world,
it's just empty seats.
empty seats. So he sits next to a mysterious old man that doesn't speak any English.
But I tell you want to look at just briefly again at the disregard that these parents hold for their children.
Yes.
The children are all scattered throughout the flight.
Yeah.
Who's sitting right next to each other? The parents. And if you'll notice
First
the
class.
wide seats that they're in, they seem to be in first class. So if the disdain these parents held for their own children wasn't obvious enough, I think that really pushes it over the. That's when I said, you people are bad.
They want a nice warm pillow and a nice glass of champers. Again, if they're going to Paris, you can understand. They're nipping down to Florida.
It's like an hour flight.
It's an hour flight. They have to go first class. So they're still in this bit of a huff. But Catherine O'Hara now has learned from her lessons. When she reaches,
Did she though?
Well, when she reaches the gate, she says, I have to make sure that everyone's here. And the flight attendant
And then doesn't.
at her gate says, don't worry, we'll make sure that everyone gets on. A promise that he can't keep. But then apparently secures her trust enough that she goes, great.
Yeah, fine.
And just fucks off into the plane.
Well,
Again,
he's the man. Everywhere you go, there's a man, who is in control. That's
Yes.
the man. You entrust yourself to the man.
This
the
guy-
man's utterly unqualified to do this.
this guy just says, sure. So Kevin gets on the plane and he heads to what he
He
thinks...
gets on a plane.
A plane.
Not
And
the plane.
Not the plane.
But a plane.
Rest of the family goes on. There's a great shot when they're looking at the radar and the two planes are going in opposite directions. And I think that's actually wonderful. And so they're going to Florida. He goes to New York. Apparently, because New York, again, much closer than Florida, but Kevin's probably
Well, that's it. They're going from Chicago. That's about 45 minutes.
It's 45. It's an up-down, really.
It'd be quicker to drive.
Yeah. So he lands in New York. And now this is when you really get the film setting in, because he's in New York and he decides to look at the New York, when he gets off at LaGuardia, and he has this wonderful shot of the New York city, I was going to say landslide. No, it's the New York City cityscape.
Cityscape,
and he stares at it for about a minute and a half before going, this isn't Florida.
Now interesting bit of IMDb trivia, Naggy. If
Yes.
you land at LaGuardia Airport, you don't get that view.
You can't see the city.
This film's full of holes.
It's apparently LaGuardia is apparently 42 floors up.
Yeah.
It's just wonderfully looking over the Hudson.
Yeah.
So he says and he goes, hang on a second, something's awry. And he's looking around for his 37 members of his family, and he can't find any of
Not
them.
one of them.
So he goes up to Molly Ringwald, who's working at the
Molly?
airport. That's Molly,
good for Molly.
Now she treats
Good
him
to see
as
she's still working.
she
In
treats
1992.
basically the last gig, really. She Pretty in Pink and
Oh,
then
poor
nothing.
Molly.
So she treats him for some reason like a dim-witted 40-year-old man, which is like, yes, sir. And he's like, where am I? And she's like, New York, sir. On your way. Like,
What's the New Yorker attitude? Where am I? Yes, you're where you are, you dickhead.
surely there's some sort of duty of care where they'd be like, hey, the title of the film, are you lost? Should we maybe, I don't know, call someone? We have a landline here. We can actually make sure. But no, apparently you're off
It would have been good if they just zoomed the camera and she goes, "Are you lost in New York?"
in New York.
Down the barrel.
Credits. Speaking of credits, we're going to take a quick break and be coming back with a little bit more of Home Alone, Lost in New York. But in the meantime, we'll play us out. We have Mr. Bonin Ham. Take it away, Bonin.
I'm lost in New York. I got on the wrong flight. I'm buying lots of toys and staying in a hotel too. Home alone is home alone. Home alone is home alone too. Lost in New York.
Thank you, Mr. Ham. Of course, welcome back to the second half of the Joust Presents. A big Merry Christmas to everyone. Of course, we're covering Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Now, Liam, very special point in this movie because he has actually arrived in New York, separated from his family, bag full of cash and credit cards.
Every little boy's dream.
And there's a moment here when he has almost the realization, similar to the first one, where he says, "My family's in Paris. I'm home alone."
Every day he's like, "Where are my family today? What,
Yeah, like apparently
what exotic locale are they in without me?"
my family's gone to Walmart and I'm home alone. Smile. Like apparently this hates.
Get the hint, Kevin. Jesus.
This is basically.
Leave him.
This is from he takes pleasure from this from a very like some momentary argument that he has with his with parents, mother, and whatnot the day before. Like I say, sleep on it, Kevin, and then you feel better in the morning because he does go along with him. There's no like on the way to the airport, he's never like, I don't want to go. I hate you. He's like, I'm going on holidays, and then he realizes now that through I don't know consequence or mischief or
Sheer happenstance.
sheer
perhaps.
happenstance
Yeah.
that he is now in the United States.
Is that when he does the Home Alone face?
Yeah. Well, he does. I don't think he ever does it in this film. Yeah,
Must have dreamed that bit.
Only in the first one that he has the
No Home Alone face.
Yeah, because it's not even like they use it as a thing of shock, but
Well,
really,
it's kind
it's
of, obviously a parallel between that and Edvard Munch's To the Screen.
yes, of course,
You know?
yeah. I thought very much the same. I got to take this hat off.
High
It's
art.
1,000
High
degrees
art.
here, being Christmas in Australia.
Australia.
So that was like when he used aftershave, and he sort of does
But
that.
why does it sting?
I don't know
Because he
why
hasn't
it's- he
shaved.
hasn't
Usually,
shaved.
if it sting, you'd have open pores from the shaving. He just puts it on.
Apparently, his
Is
father
he hypersensitive? Does he have an allergy?
allergy to
Knowing the family, they haven't got an EpiPen inside. either.
No, they don't care. They simply don't care about their
Stung
children.
by a bee? Who gives a shit?
But so he doesn't really do that. But he has this sort of wry smile, almost like a Tim Curry smile, which will appear very shortly, saying, "Oh, I'm in New York, pocket full of cash. I know
And a
what
credit card.
and a credit card. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on a sightseeing adventure. Now he does all the sights, all the big ones. Let me go the Eiffel Tower, for example, and does that, and then he spends a fair bit of time.
He's at the top of a weird tower that I've not seen before in New York. It's like it's almost got a twin next to it.
It's big. There is a moment there when he goes to the World Trade Centers that everyone watching it, because he lingers around there at the bottom, and then he goes up to the top, and there's obviously a helicopter shot where he's saying, like, he's at the...
And somehow it's, the most visited tourist spot on Earth, and he's just up there alone.
Alone, yeah. But everyone...
It's not his home. He's alone.
And he's not lost.
They should rename this Kevin is alone everywhere except his home.
Yeah, he might even be like Home Alone, well-navigated sightseeing in New York. That might have been a better title.
But it's easy to say because the system's on a grid. The city's on a grid system.
4th Street, 5th Street,
find your way around.
6th and 7th Street, 1st and 1st.
Well, the nexus of the universe.
So everyone, when they're watching this film, because they linger around, of course, the World Trade Center, everyone sort of quite nervous to themselves, thinks, should I bring up September 11th?
Well, it was a pre-9/11 world.
It was very much so. Yeah.
If you brought up September 11 in this movie, I'd be very concerned.
No, but if you're watching it with your family, you say, should I bring it up? Probably not. It is a national tragedy, of course.
It's a national tragedy.
So he's
just not our nation.
After he's, seen the sights in what apparently, because he did fly there that day, they did have to wake up quite early, but he saw all the sights in about 45 minutes.
I would have had a nap.
Yeah. He goes across one of the bridges, maybe
the Statue of Liberty be a lot bigger than that.
A lot bigger. No, yeah. He goes in like one of the oldest cabs, because a few things date this movie. But
It's such an old cab.
The cab that he goes
and the cab driver that drives him around.
It's about
terrible fellow.
1965. Yeah. Again, the cab driver. No questions in New York. No questions whatsoever. They say, a child with cash, fine.
They're everywhere. They're a dime a dozen in this town.
So he's driving around and he goes over the bridge, but then he's like, hang on a second, I need a place to stay. But he's being aware of a hotel in New York. When
was he on TripAdvisor? Do you think?
Well,
where he found that one?
I think the only thing that he has rather than TripAdvisor is the Talk Boy again, which he has ready queued up.
Best tour guide in New York City, the Talk Boy.
The Talk Boy queued up. But the way that they introduced the Plaza Hotel is they reference some game show called Ding Dang Dong, and they say
now you cannot tell me that there is really a show called Ding Dang Dong.
This must have been. This sounds like a first edit sort of a thing where they said, "Oh,
we'll put something later." Just put Ding Dang Dong. It's a placeholder. We'll get back to it. They never got back to it.
I watched it as a child, and even as an adult, I have no idea what the hell they're referencing with Ding Dang Dong.
Well, they're referencing Ding Dang Dong. Isn't that old play school song, In the Ning Nang Nong?
In the Ning Nang Nong.
Was that originally to describe New York?
Ding Dang Dong, the hotel, of course.
Ding Dang Nong, can we still say that?
I think so, yeah.
Sounds like a slur, doesn't
only
it?
Privately, yeah. Trout sniffer and Ding Dang Dong.
We're learning a lot of new slurs today, Jousters. Don Dingalong. We were just talking about that town today. It's out near Kempsey. I believe someone in this room has family in Don Dingalong.
I'm not familiar.
It's not you. No, it's not you.
It's me.
It's
Sam. Sam from Don Dingalong.
Up there, right there.
Oh, God, wasn't Kempsey a war zone in the early 2000s?
Do they call that...
Kempsey in the late 90s may have been worse than the Bronx in New York in 1992.
Central Park. So Kevin being the rich child that he is, also
the industrious fellow that he is.
A child from wealth, he eyes off the Plaza Hotel.
That's it. If that was me lost in New York, I'd somehow manage to find the cheapest backpackers you possibly can.
It'd be fine. Like, if anything,
for an 8-year-old.
All he has to do is find somewhere to stay. But he chooses the most swanky place at the time, and he walks into this hotel after hearing his talk boy talk about Ding Dang Dong nonsense up there on the north coast of Australia. And north coast of New South Wales.
Group 2 country,
Group
baby.
2, yeah.
And Group 2.
And he thinks, well, I have to get in there, but they're not going to.
They're not going to believe him if he just goes to the counter as a young boy with a wallet full of cash. They're not going to believe him.
They're not Molly Ringwald.
But they're also not going to call Child Protective Services. Just go away, boy.
They'll say, what are you doing?
Go back to your street hovel.
So
you little rat.
Again, Chekhov's talk boy comes in and he very, very cleverly makes a booking over the phone.
Yeah.
But slows his voice down.
That's how he pranks him. He slows slows his voice down, you get that famous talk boy feature of imitate your dad.
Because everyone's father apparently sounds like this, and like.
Well, I mean, they're not going to straight up ask on the phone, "Excuse me, sir, do you have a traumatic brain injury?"
Sorry, sir. Reservations. Are you a child with a slowed down voice recorder?
No talk boys in the lobby, please.
They say that.
'Cause what doesn't he say on the phone? "Hello, I'm the father."
That's
Peter
what
McAllister.
he says, "I'm Peter McAllister, the father," which it makes no reference to like being, whether you're a father or
He
not.
doesn't say whose father he is. He just says,
father?
"I'm the father."
Now, I always thought if the father's name was also Kevin, that you might have to introduce yourself as like, I'm going to come up with
Kevin
a credit.
Senior.
I'm Kevin Senior.
Kevin
the
Jr.'s got the
father.
credit card.
Exactly, but his name's Peter McAllister. So and Kevin says, "This is my father's credit card." So he doesn't need to make any sort of weird slow motion, the father, to explain his reservation. So he sets that up. They say,
And they've got the old click-clack machine. You remember the old click-clack machines for the FPOS?
also, I think he says
They were fun. They were good.
He says,
It's like racking up a shotgun.
yeah, I don't know how that ever works to be charging anything to it because you have to send that off to the
made
bank.
up, yeah.
It's Christmas. They've
Money
already-
used to be made up. It was not real in those days. You could just spend willy-nilly to your heart's content.
He was just taking a carbon copy of your credit card
Yeah.
and then sending it off to the bank. They established in this film that the banks are closed. I don't know how they prove that it's fraud. Anyway, so once he says, "Oh, I've got the," he goes, "I want one of those little refrigerators you can open with a key."
Now, what
That-
kind of hotel has a refrigerator you lock with a key? If anything, it'd be the opposite. If it was up to them, it would be open to the world. So you just drunkenly reach in and grab everything, and they charge you $25 for a small bottle of Captain Morgan.
You don't want a drunk man going up to his hotel saying, "I'm going to kick on here." But
Oh
hang on,
boy,
so-
I can't access the fridge.
Where did I
I've
put
lost
the
the
fucking
key.
fridge key? So he's very keen on this as part of his sweet request that they.
Such an oddly specific request.
Yes, yeah. So, but he walks into the Plaza Hotel. At the same time, we're also reintroduced to a couple.
Third felon in the movie we meet here in the lobby.
We meet a third felon, Mr. Donald Trump, one of the other sticky bandits, escaping the clutches of the law. Because at the time, Donald Trump
It's a
owned.
youthful Donald, of course.
Is young Donald, President-elect Donald Trump. That
I hate that sentence now. Shut up. Home Alone 3 on the
Home Alone 3,
here on the
January
street.
6th.
Home Alone 3. We got to break into the Capitol.
And then the whole movie.
Kevin's climbing the fence of the White House.
But he's hiding in the Capitol and setting up traps for people invading. They all come out. And
So he was the good guy. He was setting up the traps.
Well,
to stop
apparently,
the
yeah,
insurgents.
they stopped
Okay.
the insurgents coming through. They said they come through the window, but little they know there's a paint can swinging down their face. They weren't ready for that.
It's like, oh, we're going to steal the speaker's bloody
Thing. What?
thing. Shit. What's the thing you stand on? Yeah.
I thought you were referring to an actual speaker. Like
No,
a
you
box.
know the speakers,
lectern,
the
sort of,
lectern,
yeah,
the
yeah.
lectern. Oh no, there's marbles around it.
Yeah.
Gonna slip and fall on me bum.
Oh, what? Ice? Ice in the Capitol? So this is where we meet the trio of staff here at the Plaza Hotel.
The most inept trio of staff members of any movie ever, perhaps.
So the bellboy being played by Rob Schneider when he actually cared, which was a nice part of his career.
What an innocent, youthful-looking Rob Schneider.
Yeah, this is pre sort of
Everything.
Billy Madison sort of Billy.
What a questionable image that is.
Hello. He goes.
I guess Rob Schneider can pull off kind of pretending to be any ethnicity because you don't know which one he is.
he's one of them.
He's one of them, but he can play all of them.
So he plays
that man has range.
Cedric in this particular one, very high hair. He has like a bouffant almost on top of his head.
What a buffon it is.
There's also the wonderful, and this gives me such joy to say these in the film, and it probably wins this film over for me rather than the first one, is the wonderful Tim Curry.
Isn't he fantastic?
Which I don't think any film with Tim Curry in it is better than a film without Tim Curry.
A man with
in
the
it.
most veiled sexuality of all.
In the 90s as well. But
They hated the gays in the 90s.
there's such confidence within Tim Curry, and he's suspiciously. I mean, this is when you've already been reintroduced to the sticky bandits saying that they've broken out of prison. They're in a fish truck, they're going to make their new
Real
men's
stinky truck
in New York. But this is another sort of villain that sort of sits in Act 2, and that is Tim Curry, the concierge of the Plaza Hotel. There's also a woman there.
And that's about all we hear from the woman.
The woman, who I can't remember being.
So John Hughes, we have a trio. We need a woman.
We need a woman.
Are we going to make her do anything? No.
No, she'll just look very cross all the time. Now, she sort of reminds you of, I don't know, an assistant principal or lady that works at the bank.
Professor McGonagall, perhaps?
Possibly, yeah. She has
Dame Maggie Smith as Professor McGonagall.
a young Maggie Smith, maybe, who's gorgeous, by the way.
What a woman.
What a woman. Except that she went from to being about 35 to 60 like that.
She's Scottish. They age quickly. They don't age, and then bam, they've all aged.
I tell you why I think that might have been, Liam. Also, there's a bit of what do they call it when you think that something's going on in the Mandela effect? Yeah. But I think
was she always old?
Well, this is the thing. I first saw Maggie Smith as a child in the film Hook in 1990.
She was in Hook?
Yeah, she was in
Who
Hook.
did she play in
She
Hook?
played Grandma Wendy. But they aged her up extremely.
She was incredibly old.
She was she was as an actress, she was about 50, but they made her look 90 and she's frail and she's getting, Peter, I can't stand. And
We should do Hook. That's a great movie.
It's a wonderful thing. But then, so that when you first see Maggie Smith in Hook being
in the
aged
1991 film Hook, Wendy Darling is 92 years old.
Yeah.
Dame Maggie was 56.
56.
Imagine that casting call. We need 92-year-old women. Let's
Maggie.
call 56-year-old Maggie.
How dare.
What a terrible hit to Maggie's self-esteem that was.
So they
Jesus.
aged her up so much. So after that, as a child, you go 20 years later, and then all of a sudden you still think, hang on, this woman hasn't aged at all. She's still very old.
Again, she did all of her aging in about 10 minutes.
And you really nailed the older woman, but she's lovely. I have all the time in the world for
What a matriarch.
Probably what do they call women when they're not sirs, they're like
Madam. No, Dame. Dame Maggie.
Dame Maggie Smith, of course.
Battle axe.
Battle axe herself. But this woman, not Maggie Smith, but a bit of a Maggie Smith light, but still has the intensity of it. Sirs Kevin, when he comes up and says, I have a reservation, she says, do you? And he's like, yeah.
I think she might be wearing Ben Elias's shoulder pads under that jacket.
Well, I think they're all wearing some shoulder pads. I think it's the most, everything knows. If you're more powerful, you have larger shoulders. So, of course, she's the most powerful woman in the film
Because of the shoulders.
Because of the shoulders.
Yeah.
So you have Tim Curry spying on Kevin, saying, "Cedric, find out what you can about that boy." And at the same time,
Cedric's nothing but more than a bag boy. He doesn't give a shit.
no, he doesn't care.
I don't care. There's a child with money. I can get a better tip.
He's in it for the tips.
But he pranks him.
He
pranks him.
He says, so my dad has booked this room, but give me the key anyway.
He's not here.
He's not here. And she said, all right, and just hands over the key. And Cedric goes up and says, okay, I'm gonna show you to your room. And there's a great sort of cross-cultural thing where he says, Herbert Hoover stayed on this floor. And Kevin asks, is that the vacuum man?
Yeah.
And he says, no.
That's my favourite line in the whole movie. Is that the vacuum
The
man?
president, which, well, hopefully one day when someone says, Donald Trump used to own this hotel, and they say, is that the vacuum
convicted
man?
felon?
Is that the convicted
34-time convicted felon?
Is that the convicted felon? They say, no, the president. But it'll probably also be Rob Schneider because now
What a backwards world we live in.
love the right wing. So, as we can see here from his Happy Madison films,
I think he's playing right wing.
I think he's very early on. He adopted the right wing before it was,
That'll be our next musical guest for next week. Right
wing. So Kevin goes into his room and checks it out, and he's amazed. He says,
Well, it's a wonderful room.
It's a wonderful
I'd be
room.
amazed
It's
if
a
I'd-
suite, so
Yeah.
it's got several rooms in there. It's like a small apartment, but it does look like a miniature one of his own houses. Like his house is a mansion,
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Oh my gosh, a bed just for me." But it's like you have
He had
multiple.
his own bed in the attic.
Yeah.
The punishment bed was as big as any bloody Plaza Hotel suite bed.
It's about 2 degrees higher
Yeah.
than his attic bed.
He gets in the suite and he goes, well, this is just the west wing of my childhood home.
He says, this reminds me of the wing. when the cousins are there, we have 16 rooms all to myself. But he's amazed with this. Now, Cedric tries to see it. He tries to spy a bit on the name, and he gets caught and does some slippery, I'm going to put the key in the bag. It's something that you'd never do. As someone
Why would
that-
he put the key in the
bag?
bag?
Terrible.
now?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Do you think he was
really.
trying to trick the boy boy.
He was trying to.
So I'll put the key in the bag. The boy won't know it's in the bag.
He said, I'll hang on to it. Thank you very much. As every fucking person would do.
What an assertive young boy. But no, sir.
Put it in the bag, so I'm looking for it. If I call concierge and say, can you set up another key? It's gone. Oh, we put it in the bag for you. Why? I've got a key for the room and a key for the fridge. I've got too many keys.
That's a lot of keys. Do you provide a key ring, perhaps?
Yeah.
Plaza Hotel.
Put one that can attach to a belt lug.
And again, this is something that may be lost on an Australian audience when Cedric does the "hello, I'd like a tip" finger thing.
Yeah.
Because the finger thing means the tips.
Now you've been to the States where tip culture is huge. Yeah, would you tip?
I spent 7 nights in New York over about 3 days.
Hey, would you? Would you?
Not sure what that meant.
Someone that's taking a bag up to the room do they deserve a tip? Because we all know about the
because they're paid shit.
Right, they're all paid shit.
He was probably on about $2 an hour.
So really, everyone is just hoping
more than Rob Schneider got paid to be in this movie. So he does the thing. He does the finger thing means the tips, and little Kevin being a sneaky, cheeky boy
gives him gum.
Have a stick of gum.
Yeah, which is not
Buzz outdoes him later, but he gives him a stick of gum.
Because this is not give me gum in any sort of language.
In childhood language, when lollies are basically a currency, so I can understand the confusion.
If Kevin was chewing,
it's like I'm cleaning the room. I'd like 5 ghost drops, please.
If Kevin was,
if I mow the lawn, a whole bag of Milkos, please and thank you.
If Kevin,
I'd throw it back. I hate Milkos.
If Kevin was chewing gum, he'd be like currently, and then he was like this. He's like, I'd like a piece, but he just says this, and he's like, have some gum.
Well, of course, Buzz pranks him later in the film where he does that. He gives him the chewed up gum,
the actual chewed up one, which I think
Buzz is a psychopath.
It's a bit of a payoff, but also Buzz is 47 years old.
He's got some shit wrong in his head. He's got money to tip him with.
So he goes into the room, which is basically a tiny version of his mansion home, but he's amazed by it. Meanwhile, his parents have realised that Kevin's not with them in Florida. They panic. They go straight to the police.
They're meeting with the Miami police.
Mind you, Kevin is aware that the police exist and ignore them throughout the entire film until the end. So he's still saying, I can just do what I like. I got a lot of cash. I got a credit card. But there is a great moment with Catherine O'Hara and the gentleman that plays the father when they tell the Miami policeman, he's like, has he ever been alone by himself? Not a question the cop would ever ask, really. But they say, oh, he has. This happened last
quietly
year.
angling, has he ever been alone with Uncle Frank?
Yeah. That nude man that he made him go in and look at in the shower. And they say, well, we do make him view his uncle in the shower. All he should be screamed at. But there's
because remember he goes in the shower with the talk boy, of course. The ultimate talk boy prank is to record Uncle Frank singing in the shower. And then make out that he's a pedophile to everyone.
And if I was in the shower singing and enjoying myself, also my brother's house, which I don't have a brother, but if I had one that had a mansion, and I wouldn't be that excited in the shower that I have to sing full blast.
I would also lock the door.
Yeah, you just lock it.
Just
those
lock
houses have locks.
The house costs $1.5 million. Spend the extra $20 to get a lock on the bathroom door, please.
Yeah, just maybe just don't go in there. Anyway, so Kevin is now in the wonderful hotel. Now, also, this feels like he's in there for ages. Sorry, his parents are talking to the cops, and they have a wonderful comedic moment. Catherine O'Hara really shows her comedic chops.
And the fella,
whatever
his name may
when
be.
they say, "Oh, have you ever?"
John Hurt.
John Hurt. Thank you very much.
John Hurt.
Is it John Hurt?
Hurt,
not Hurt. Okay. So we did that with the correct name. There, and then they have he says, "Oh, we never lose our luggage, though," and they knock on the table, which is just it's a nice beat to say that you're terrible parents.
See, any good police would have said, yes, I didn't ask about the luggage. What about your son?
What about your son, the one that's lost and possibly dead at this stage? Like, he abducted, who knows?
Shut up about the luggage.
Well, the luggage, but they have a nice little knock moment. They say, actually, we're terrible parents. This happens every year.
But
and then they
still
say,
got luggage.
But can you help us? And
is the boy stuffed in the luggage? If you dismembered the child and put him in the luggage,
I'd be investigating the parents. Quick, smart.
That's it. The luggage would be straight to the evidence room.
Yeah. So Kevin decides to be living it up in this hotel. Goes to all the facilities, including the pool.
I believe. Does he jump on the bed? Is there a jump on the bed?
He doesn't jump on the bed.
Which is odd because that's always the first thing in a movie. You can always tell it's a fancy hotel because they go and jump on the bed. That's the first thing.
He doesn't.
They've bucked tradition here.
I don't think they jump on any bed.
They didn't want to lean too much into the stereotypical jump on the bed.
Well,
it's a trope.
They certainly lean into the tropes of their existing film.
Yeah.
So but Kevin decides to. I'm going to live it up like a rich man. And the biggest scene is he goes down to the pool, which probably is up considering. I don't know, it has a great view. But he says, I'm going to work on my cannonballs. And they say, the old people around the pool say, go for it, which is something an old person would never say to a child.
No old person has ever said go for it to a child.
To say, yeah, they say, go away, is what they say. So
they go, I'm calling the cops, which would have been the best thing they could do for Kevin.
At the sort of crescendo.
Excuse me, there's a young boy cannonballing. Oh, shit, we're looking for a young boy who likes cannonballing. We'll be right there.
Done. We found
the movie would have been over.
Yeah. Credits. So he works in his cannonballs, which is, I don't know about you, but a cannonball is like gripping your knees.
You got to grip your knees.
And he lands in the water, huge splash, but then they decide to throw in this thing that his shorts come off for some reason.
Yeah, that was really odd. The shorts come off. It feels a bit Uncle Frankish. Like Uncle Frank was just sitting there behind the window.
He might have written this film. I don't know. He's there going, what if the child's shorts come off? And he goes,
like before the holiday, Uncle Frank's just gone around taking all the drawstrings out of the kids' swimming pants.
He's like, we're going to Florida, everyone. It's a creepy uncle. Thank you very much, Bonin.
Pack the ones without the strings, boys.
And so he goes, yikes, and he grabs them. And it was unnecessary, probably, in this film, but I don't know what they were going for.
Troublesome.
So he
couldn't do that in this day and age. You probably shouldn't.
He settles into his room with a mountain of ice cream. Now,
there's a whole ice cream buffet. There's the guy in there scooping for him and everything. I was like, this guy's brought up 14 tubs of ice cream, and he's just not questioning it, just scooping ice cream for a boy.
Also, the ice cream that he doesn't eat within the tray would just turn into.
That would feed a third world family.
But it would just be liquid by the time we go back to the kitchen. He may as well say, bring up ice cream. How many scoops do you want?
What flavour would you like?
Exactly,
how many scoops would you like? Should I put them in a bowl or in a cup? There you go.
Not get up there and say, well, I've got now this vat of ice cream.
Well, see, that's how the wealthy live, Naggy. The other half live like that, disregarding how much ice cream they are or aren't using. They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't give a shit.
Yeah, so...
they don't have to ration their ice cream like we did when we were youths. You can only eat one part of the Neapolitan at a time.
That's right.
Who touched the chocolate? It's strawberry time.
That's all we've got left. Carved it down the middle. It's betwixt now. It's cut in twain. Who's cut the Neapolitan twain? Do they still make it? Have they discontinued it? Does anyone know?
No, probably not. We're not a real country anymore.
No, back in the day.
After Tony Abbott, there's probably not been a Neapolitan ice cream in the freezer.
Hasn't touched the shelves. So, but he's living it up like any sort of young person would do, is eating a lot of junk food. And he's watching a film, Liam. Now, for some reason, Kevin has a real penchant for really, really, really old films.
And really quite violent and cursing films as well. Yeah, he just loves the 1930s noir mob films.
Now, the original one was called Angels with Filthy Souls. And this is a sequel, which is a bit of an
Isn't it Angels with Filthier Souls?
Even Filthier Souls.
Which I thought was a good little teapot.
The same gangster is in there where he says, hold it right there.
Even filthier souls.
You've been smooching with my brother.
You've been smooching all around town.
And this is
what a horny film.
It's sort of a bit of a comical sort of bit, but in the end, he is gunning down a woman that apparently he's sort of accusing of infidelity.
Well, smooching his brother.
Also,
smooching everyone around town. She's a hussy.
We might mention that the woman is about 24 years old and the man is 86.
Oh, and apparently, the past.
It was apparently the past in the past. And then the mere suggestion of infidelity, he pulls a Tommy gun and shoots her to death. Because the first one was like some sort of business associate. It was like, well, what do you mean, Tommy? I didn't do you wrong. And he goes bang, bang, bang. But this one was
just
like,
some chick.
This is basically DV on film. So, but with the most murderous of results. Yeah. But Kevin's like, oh God, this is terrible, but I'll remember this scene.
Yeah, because it worked in the first one.
Now, Tim Curry is
we get to the shower. Now we get this boy. This is a troublesome scene, Naggy, for many reasons. The Tim Curry shower scene.
He's suspicious. He's
right to be suspicious.
He's right to be. Look, I tell you what. He's sort of his concerns were correct. They were in line. They were the right kind of concerns. But instead of saying, I don't know, maybe knocking on the door, he just lets himself in.
Yeah, let me put it to you,
housekeeping.
Naggy. If you wanted to find someone in a hotel room and you heard that they were in the shower, would you open the door and very hornily poke your
head around and say, "Oh,
just
hello."
Is he in the shower there?
Rice smiles.
But again, Chekhov's talk boy comes into play and he plays Uncle Frank singing in the shower.
Only to spin around as an inflatable clown with a...
Which it's never established why the inflatable clown is
there.
in the
No.
shower in the first place.
It never
like,
really...
was Kevin, again, he's clearly planned all of this out.
This is probably a credit to Kevin in many respects because he's
covered every base.
Well, he's decided that I might be checked on by the staff, but they're not burglars, even though they're entering a space that I've paid for quite legitimately.
They're also very inept.
So this is a boy that, would usually set up, I don't know, like a nail gun at the door and be ready for it to fire as soon as someone opens it. But instead he's gone for the movie clown, which is with a shower cap, just to shout at the man and says, "Get out of here, you nosy little pervert." But luckily for Tim...
You've been smooching my sister, you've been smooching my brother.
So that's the movie.
Smooching all around town.
That's the film. So he sprints out, but very lucky that he didn't sprint out, slip on marbles and land on a knife.
On his bum.
Which is like
they always land directly on their bum.
Whoa, bang, and then they land. Yeah, that's how Kevin likes to do it. So he did it like a very, very pleasant trap, I think, for this particular doll. Now, the next morning, he goes in.
Really went easy on him.
The film makes it feel like that he's in the film. He's in the hotel for like a week. He's in there for a day.
He's settled in for a day.
He's in there for a day. He goes downstairs the next day, and Tim Curry says, "I'm very sorry," which is again.
I didn't see your father's penis. I promise.
No penis was seen, but I did peer around the door and stare at your father's penis, which happens to be inflatable.
It's all part of the service,
It's all
sir.
the concierge. They all want me to stare at your father's penis. He says, "I'm very sorry, sir," and then says, "But don't worry, I've organised you a limousine and a cheese pizza, which only Tim Curry can deliver with such confidence. Pizza. And then,
well, if you know one thing about New York, it's they're famous for their cheese pizza.
And Kevin says,
and their limousines.
Wonderful, let's go. Driver, take me to a toy shop. Now, he heads off to Duncan's Toy Chest.
Now, for the youth who are watching this, we obviously have some youths in the audience. Toys used to come from stores. We didn't have Amazon. We didn't have Electronics Bay. We had, honest to goodness, brick and mortar toy stores. And
Toys R Us, maybe.
Toys R Us, Toy World. And at Christmas, they were a cornucopia of fun.
Now,
you go there, they've got the Ferris wheel.
The Lego.
They've got the villages.
Yeah.
They've got all the good toys.
Yeah.
You actually
Could you play with them, though, Liam? Could you get the toys
You don't
out
touch
and play
the
with
toys.
them? Exactly.
No. Hands behind the back, please, sir.
Duncan has decided to do his store a bit differently. He's like, I want to sell a lot of toys. He speaks like this. He's like, I want to sell a lot of toys. He speaks like very oddly. He's like, so I'm going to let all the kids play with all the toys, so they don't buy them. So they walk out of the store and go, I'm over that toy.
I had my fun.
I
Goodbye.
had my fun. Kevin walks in there again, pocket full of cash. He buys some shit, and then speaks to Duncan. Duncan.
Oh, but we don't know that at the time.
He's just a mysterious.
We think he's nothing but a cashier.
No, yeah, apparently,
An old
yeah.
an elderly cashier.
I'm an 86-year-old cashier. I started here when I was 12.
I had to retire, but I blew all my money on Ferris wheels. Had to get a job.
I've got a house full
Can
of
we
toys.
just duck back quickly? Something that really, really, really pisses me off about this movie. If we could duck back one slide, please, Tim. The formatting of his store.
Yeah.
If you were to point to that store and say, Liam, what's it called? I'd say that store is called Toy Duncan's Chest. Now that sounds like a very, very sexual male movie.
Toy Duncan's Chest,
It's all about
please.
Toy Duncan and his hot, hot chest.
Welcome the children into my store. Play with my toy. I mean my toys.
No, play with my chest. No, not my chest.
No, not my chest. He welcomes Kevin.
It's a shop filled with man's breasts.
Squeeze my chest, Kevin. So he's like, again, a child in the store, lots of money. He's like, boy, you got a lot of cash there. Why don't you give it to, this is the weakest subplot of this entire film, the Children's Hospital.
Because every profit I get goes to the hospital,
hospital,
on this finest of days.
Terrible business
No
model.
business owner's going to do that. That's your peak business time. It's Christmas Eve.
You play with the toys,
Yeah.
give me money for the hospital. I take no money.
Not doing too well, boys.
Boys, we are not doing too well.
The shop's going tits up. We're making no money on Christmas Eve. What's going wrong?
It's a closing
Sell
down
more
sale.
Ferris wheels.
And they're all like those fantastical 1930s toys. No one's in there clicking away at a Nerf gun. It's always like, it's all very Christmassy. It's like Christmas ornament. So he goes,
villages and such.
Kevin says, you know what? I've got a lot of money. I'm going to give you the most smallest amount of it.
Give him like $10.
$20.
$20.
Which was a lot of money back then, but he's like, I'm going to give you $20.
What does $20 get you in this economy?
Well, I tell you what.
In this cost of living crisis, what does $20 get? He doesn't get you a big fancy bloody Ferris wheel from Mr. Toy Duncan chest.
No. He pays for it and then goes, I'm going to give you, throw in some money for the kids' hospital because apparently that's a subplot.
Yeah.
Now. There's this subplot that's really never thought out. That he's like, moral children's hospital, sure.
And then you want to pile poor business decision on poor business decision. I'm giving all my profits to the hospital. Also, here's some free shit.
Also, hospital government funded. The hospital isn't closing, so it's fine. It's
it's
fine.
America. There's big conglomerates paying for hospitals now.
All right. Yeah. So this wealthy
privatize healthcare.
So the wealthy aristocrat
Thanks,
says,
Donald.
Thank you so much for your $20 donation. Why don't you have these shitty plaster of Paris turtle doves off this tree? And then it gives a story that's completely made up. It's like, you give one turtle dove to one friend, and they're your friend for life.
Well, see, now he's lost two customers.
Yeah.
Because you got one bloke who's not buying a turtle dove. That second bloke's not buying a turtle dove because he got it for free as well.
Yeah. Shitty Christmas ornaments. They would break into 1,000 pieces in Kevin's bag immediately. So, and they're like poorly glued together. Anyway, then he's like, turtle doves are the best. And he's like, no, they're not. They're shit. So any child of Kevin's age would be like, why are you giving me this? No.
Give me a super soaker, please, you dickhead.
Keep it on the Christmas ornament. I don't carry around Christmas ornaments. I'm not a tree. So he decides to give him that. And then as he's walking out of the store,
he looks back
he sees
in trepidation.
He sees a sign saying Mr. Duncan. And then there's a massive portrait of him. Like
of who?
Of Mr.
That random old cashier.
And then he goes, it's the cashier. And he looks at it and he goes, huh? And then he turns around and
Mr. That's the Santa Claus.
Mr. Duncan's gone. But of course he's gone. They make him out to be some sort of superhuman.
He's
like
just ducked down to grab the pricing gun.
He's just underneath. He's pulling out some sellotape. He's like, is a bit of a what's come off here?
Well, he's giving away all his free shit. He can't afford employees. He's got to serve every person.
Apparently he's there. He's like, I love kids. But we know a little too much.
So does Uncle Frank.
Mr. Toy
Doesn't make him a good Christmas person.
Mr. Play with my chest.
Now we got to bring in Naggy. We've discussed at great length, and we think, Joust, this may be controversial on this show, maybe controversial in society, but we think that racism is bad.
Exists.
Now, I think we've got a very good example of a racist caricature.
Yeah.
The director, John Hughes, he said, we need someone who's destitute, someone who's incredibly broke, and who's also quite demented.
And charming.
Yeah. Let's put an Irish person in.
Irish, exactly.
Yeah, it's got to be Irish.
Fits the bill. So
drastically broke, insane in their noggin, but a nice person.
Someone that's apparently broken that sleeps on the streets but loves birds. Yeah. And they say, we'll just throw this bird lady. But she's Irish and she's jolly. Ho, nice to meet you, Kevin. But he's frightened of her in the same way that
the shovel man.
The shovel man. And again, she does look very much like Piers Morgan.
She does.
It's the chub around the face. They try to recreate all these scenes, and they thought, the shovel man, he's a neighbour.
The bird's like a shovel.
It's like he meets someone part of the community, but they're like, we'll just give him a strange homeless woman. And so, of course, she's Irish, and then he's frightened of her and whatnot. But Liam, this is when Kevin runs into the Sticky Bandits.
Sticky Bandits.
They cite him and they say...
Formerly wet bandits who have now become sticky.
They've now become sticky. And they say, hang on a second, that's that kid that ruined our lives. Let's go over and abduct him. And now, in saying that...
Let's tell him everything we're going to do to him first.
Yes. No, they will do that a little bit in the future. But before that time, we are going to take another short break. Another short break. So, Mr. Bonenham, take us away for another short break.
I'm lost in New York, home alone too. I'm lost in New York, home alone too. Starring Daniel Stern and Macaulay Culkin. You might remember Daniel Stern
from
Bushwick.
You made me feel lost in you.
Thank you, Mr. Ham. Liam,
Now, Naggy,
where we were before was
it's not where we are now.
we're not where we are
because
now.
that was
We've-
before.
we've
And
moved-
time is linear, but it's also a flat circle.
but it is also still Christmas, still all enjoying ourselves.
This Christmas day that this young boy's experienced is the longest Christmas day in the history of Christmas days.
He's been in New York for
Yeah.
about 12 minutes, really, and he's gone through all
He's
of these
seen
sorts of-
everything. He's seen the
everything.
sights.
He's seen the sights, stayed in the hotel. But Liam, he's been captured by the Sticky Bandits. This is Joe Pesci and...
Formerly the Wet Bandits.
Formerly the Wet, now the Sticky, which is the actor that plays the younger fellow is...
Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern, thank you, Mr. Bonin. And so they capture him and they say, hang on a second, this is the kid that ruined our lives and sent us to prison. Let's just move him along for a place where we can beat him within an inch of his life.
But now, you got to suspend your disbelief a bit to enjoy this movie, I think it's safe to say. But in a city of 15 million people,
yes.
2 escaped bandits who escaped for doing a crime of almost murdering a kid,
Yes.
bump into that same kid.
Yes, assume he's, again, alone. They
Yeah.
just assume this kid is always by himself, no family. Because I guess from their perspective, he just lived in that house by himself.
Yeah.
So, because
It's like, boy, this is a rich kid. It's okay to rob him.
The
That's fine.
parents go back, so he goes, Hi, Joe Pesci goes, hiya, pal. He screams and runs. They chase. And they chase through New York, and and he only evades them by quickly stopping at one of the classic New York vendors, which are selling sort of these moody pearls like that aren't worth anything. And he says, 2 for $5, 3 for $5. Always price going.
$4. I remember when I went to New York, every single shop you walk by, they've
Yeah.
got cheaper and cheaper New York I Heart NY t-shirts.
Oh, yes.
I walked to one. 10 t-shirts for $8 it was.
Okay, that's-
In a cost of living crisis in this economy, that was a great deal.
You'd have to have a McAllister-sized family.
I didn't even have $8 to buy 10 shirts with. But
You
now
have to
you've
tip,
got to
of course. Yeah, you have
you've
to-
got to remember that these wet bandits, the crimes they committed was so severe and their breakout was so well known. They were on the front page of the New York newspaper that we see in the poster, of course.
right.
That very well-known New York periodical, the New York newspaper.
That's right.
The escape of the wet bandits made the front page
Yeah.
in. At the time, the most crime-ridden city in America.
That's right, yeah.
These were apparently the most wanted fugitives at the time. It was pre-9/11,
That
of course.
was
They weren't looking
pre-9/11.
for the pilots.
It was a national tragedy.
But not our national tragedy.
So they've decided to chase him. He pearls. They slip. He gets away, but he runs
They
back
land on their bum.
He runs back to the hotel where he's staying. But you think that might be a safe haven for him. But no, Tim Curry has worked out in a very Grinchy way with his wry smiles. Like, oh,
I almost saw his dad's penis.
I saw his father's penis. That he says, this is a stolen credit card, he says, and immediately stops him and says, ha ha, and snatches his credit card off him. And so Kevin runs to the room, still has the key and the key to the refrigerator.
Well, I hope so. Otherwise, he can't get into the refrigerator.
And they say, stop him, and Cedric knocks himself out and says, come along, Cedric. And also,
And
Tim
they
Curry's
all tackle each other.
strength that Tim Curry has to pull Cedric across a gloss floor, but he moves so like seamlessly, like it's a block of ice. But that's the strength that Tim Curry has. It's from the theatre, so he had to be strong.
You had to be strong
Yeah.
to be in the theatre.
Triple threat. So they follow him up to the room.
The real song and dance man.
With the 2 oldest security guards available, and they come in there, but Kevin says, "Hang on a second, I know what to do exactly here. I've got the television prompt ready." And the guy from Even Filthier Soul says, "Hold it right there." And they say, "Hang
You've
on."
been smooching my sister.
You've
You've been smooching my brother.
And this is a wonderful part
You've
of
been smooching me. I'm going to kill you.
Tim Curry's acting, where he says, "Yeah, you were here last night, wasn't it?" And he says, "I was," and he owns up and he said, "And you were smooching with my brother." And Tim Curry must think in his mind,
He's like, "Oh,
"Was
shit,
I?
which
What-
brother?"
Was I? Damn, whose brother have I been
In
smooching
amongst the
with?"
dark club of various men that I've just
Yeah.
been smooching on, which one was his brother?
and again, he has this like, he's like, "I believe you're mistaken."
He just turns to Cedric and says, "It wasn't just smooching, Cedric."
There and so then he said, "Cliff," and then they look at the security guard, Cliff. But then he says, "I
All
believe you."
security guards are named Cliff.
Cliff, he says, "It's a lie," but he says, "But my Tommy gun don't." And again, they are hearing a television in the next room, thinking this is live audio, clear, crisp.
Again, New York at the time, the most crime-ridden city on earth. They're like, "Oh, he says he got a Tommy gun. You were fucked."
Probably does.
We're out.
And he says, "Oh, I give you one more chance. Get down on your knees and tell me that you love me." Because remember, this is a classic horrifying DV film where he makes the woman say he loves her before he guns her down. And then, but again, they all get down on their knees and they say, and he goes, "I love you." He says, "You got to do better than that." And again, almost like a choir says, "I love you." And they all get into it.
Perfectly synchronized.
And he says, he goes, "I believe you, but I'm going to give you the count of 3 and then open fire." Again, the sound of open fire on television must sound like a live gun because they all hit the deck and they all scoot out of the room. And then
like a wonderful commando crawl out of the room, a synchronized commando crawl between the 3 of them.
Yeah, again, very strong. Tim Curry, commander crawls very well because triple threat, very strong. So he says, "Everyone get back in their rooms. There's a madman with a gun."
Everyone else is like, "Oh, okay,
All right.
yeah."
And so they all go back in, and then
Another day in the large apple.
Kevin says, "Don't worry, I've made it out of there," and he dives straight into. Now, this is an interesting point. It's the palm of Joe Pesci, which still has the M burnt on there from the hot handle of the first film, which leads me to believe
interesting callback
that they're all these injuries have stayed with them.
These men are riddled with scars.
They are so brutalized.
They're just full of nails that he shot at them with a nail gun that he had a rope because he was upstairs and it was a whole thing.
It's not fantastical if like they have scars and they've been beaten and their skulls are caved in.
It's like there was actual consequences.
To the thing. So they walk him off. And now, just like a James Bond film, they decide this would be a great time to just explain what we're going to do.
We're going to tell you every little thing, boy.
Yeah. And it says, we're going to rob Duncan's chesty boy. There with all...
Duncan's hit shop.
Duncan's testy filmy. So he says, "Oh, Carl, you know the one." And he says, "I've been there actually. What are the odds?" He says, "Oh, we're going to rob it tonight. We're going to give you the time, the location, what we're going to do."
He goes, "No, not the Ferris wheel. Don't take the Ferris wheel."
It says, "Leave all the toys alone." But they all, like, if you're looking at like why rob Toy Duncan's chest, of course, is the store's name. They are sort of asking for it because all the money that they give to the hospital is in just a big Perspex chest. That's just like
I assume that it's in a large sack with a dollar sign.
Yeah, he says burglars welcome.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Oh, this is our very, very secret plan." He manages to evade them, but of course runs into a subplot character of the Bird Lady,
the racist Irish caricature.
Not before he gets a real taste of New York in the '90s, which is just prostitutes and a milky-eyed taxi man.
Yes, Central Park at the time was such a haven for filth and villainy and scum. It's quite a nice tourist attraction.
I tell you what, at the time in New York, they had payphones. Why didn't he just call the police and say, "You know what? I'm actually fearful of my life at the moment. Why don't you call my mum?" But instead, he's like, "Don't worry. I'm going to walk around Central Park." At the time, very, very dangerous. Meets the Bird Lady for the second time. He ran into her earlier in the film and ran away.
Serendipity.
And she says, she frees his foot. And he's like, "Well, you actually might not be a crazed homeless killer. You might just be a crazed homeless person." Irish and charming, of course. And so they decide to do the most logical thing and go to Carnegie Hall and watch some sort of pre-Christmas rehearsal. I don't know. And she says, "I've been staying up here for years."
Yeah.
It's like, how poorly managed is Carnegie Hall that they haven't gone, "Has anyone gone to that fucking room up there?" I swear there's a bird lady's been living up there.
And it's a storage room for things that they use in Carnegie Hall. Like, they'd be in there often, poking in and out. Like,
he's up there.
We've got a new cello we need. Oh, that light's out. We'll go up and grab a bulb from up there. Apparently not.
Jeff, can you replace that light? What do you mean?
No.
What do you mean there's a woman up there that's been living up there for 4 years? She goes, "I don't really talk to many people," clearly, but at the same time, she decides to open herself up.
No, she talks to the people. They don't talk back. She's speaking rubbish.
So they have this. They have this moment where they decide to make Kevin sort of a wise, again, 40-year-old man, where she's like, "Oh, I loved once and I never love again." He's like, why don't you try loving again? She's like, all right.
Okay.
That's
I never thought about that.
But it has this weird sort of dynamic where it seems like they're on a date. I don't know. It's like
Yeah, there was
it's
some
slightly
doomy
romantic.
eyes getting thrown around. There were some looks from her that Uncle Frank would have given me a bit earlier in the movie, I think.
Macaulay says, or Kevin in this case says, "Oh, you know what? You've actually inspired me to do the righteous thing
Because I don't want to end up like you sack of shit.
I was just almost murdered by these psychopathic criminals. I'm going to put myself back in their crossfire by foiling their plan of trying to stop them from robbing what is sure to be insured money.
Duncan's breast shop.
Duncan's tit shop, of course. And so then he's like, well, how can I do this? I can't just, again, call the police and say, you know what, you might want to come to Duncan's toy chest. There's two guys robbing it. He's like, I
got him.
I must go to my uncle's house.
Now, here's another wonderful piece of due diligence the parents had. She's like, oh, he's in New York. Oh, he's lost. My uncle lives there. Will he go to his house? Probably. Is there anyone there? He's on vacation. They've probably got someone looking after the place.
He's renovating, apparently, but it's been renovated to the point of dilapancy. It is the most haunted house.
Either the mother or the father either says, there's probably someone house sitting.
It's just,
There'll be someone there. It's fine.
It's just empty with a tube going straight into the house that you can access from the street. So he goes,
It looks like the house. You remember that movie, The Borrowers?
Yeah.
With Nathan Lane and that other crazy guy? They go to the dilapidated house and try to fix it up. Oh, no, am I thinking Mousetrap?
Mousetrap.
Yeah, it looks like
the
the
little
house from
people.
Mousetrap.
Hunt.
Mouse Hunt. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man behind the can.
So he goes
It's like the house from Mouse Hunt.
his uncle's house.
That was
He's
a
like,
great movie.
I'm going to go there and instead of being like nearly killed earlier, I'm just going to lay low. He's like, I'm going to make this.
I'm on the lam.
I'm going to make this some weird haunted mansion sort of a deal where a house I've never been in before. I'm just going to get into all. Paint the tools and the slime and set this all up. He rolls out a plan. He's written all over it in crayon, and like almost like a proper psychopathic child would. So he sets this
It's sort of like the child's equivalent of a manifesto.
yeah.
I suppose.
He sets this up and thinks, well,
At
I
the top
can't.
it just says murder plan.
A murder plan. How can I basically murder two men that I don't like? Again, so he just this isn't his house. But anyway,
But it's a house.
But he's like,
that's the only criteria you need for this movie. It's a house.
He's like, well, they're going to go into Duncan's nipple territory. But I have to get them here. So I'm going to go to where the crime is being committed and also commit a crime myself by throwing a brick through the window, not knowing if the shop's alarmed at all.
I mean, see, he knows it's New York. People throw bricks through windows all the time. It was common pastime there. So it's just a fun evening in New York, just hurling bricks through toy shop windows, ruining the bloody Ferris wheels.
The bandits are there shoveling money in from the children's hospital subplot, which is rarely
the
visited.
sack with the dollar sign on it.
Oh, on the way he looks in the children's hospital and there's a sick child looking out the window.
I hate these sick kids.
I don't think that's how children's hospitals work. But anyway, she's.
Are you saying there's no children standing by windows at children's hospital looking longingly
sad.
at bandits?
Just because they're in a hospital doesn't mean they don't have any family. I don't know why there's no family there. It's like a children's prison.
This
if
movie
anything.
is not a good representative of honest, good-fashioned old Christian family planning. Family, whatevers.
Apparently, in New York, it's like my child's sick. It's Christmas. I better just leave them in the hospital.
I've got better things to do.
I've got way better things.
I'm going to go to Carnegie Hall and watch the symphony.
Yeah.
Good luck, kid. We'll see you at New Year's, maybe.
Oh, don't worry. I'll swing by Duncan's breast shop on the way back. So
And you be good, or we'll send Uncle Frank.
So he throws the brick through the window. He leads them back, and by saying, like, why would you chase him? Oh, because he has a 1992 camera that he keeps taking photos of these people committing the crime. Now,
This kid's got everything. He's got the Polaroid camera. He's got the talk boy. Like, what's next? He's got a mini disc player tucked up his ass somewhere.
he's got a bit of everything. Now, 1992 cameras were terrible at taking photos at any stage, let alone from
Especially a Polaroid.
especially a great distance.
Yeah.
But they're like, give us the camera, kid. But it's like, you're already on the run from the law. It doesn't really matter if you've got a photo of you committing another crime because you're on the run.
A Polaroid camera doesn't store the photos within the camera.
No.
You don't need the camera.
I don't know if it's Polaroid, but it certainly looks like one. It's certainly one of a shitty quality.
I believe if we look immediately to the right of the talk boy
it
image
is
there,
a
it's a Polaroid.
It's a Polaroid camera.
So the photos aren't even stored on the camera.
No, yeah,
Why do
yeah.
you want the camera for?
The Polaroid camera will just show an image of something. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
like, I can identify both those men. They're both on the lam. We got to go and arrest them.
There's two smudges. We got to get them.
They're still on the land. They're still on the run. Who knows where they are? But instead of running away, they we got to go kill this kid. And I think maybe they mentioned killing the kid a few times at this stage. But he's already climbed up on the roof. And he says, I know exactly what to do with my keen mind.
I
and
have
my
the high ground.
criminal brain. And that's to throw bricks at you from a height. And this is probably the realest part.
Because that's the first thing you do when you are establishing a fortified position. You take the high ground. He took the high ground.
He says, come up here and
I think it was Sun Tzu that said in obviously his famous think piece, The Art of War, he said, take the high ground, then just throw bricks and shit at him.
Now, unlike the first... Classic line. Yeah. Unlike the first
One
film,
of the oldest tenets of warfare.
where you feel so at home in the house, you're like, the living room's downstairs,
But alone.
and the stairs, and the bedrooms are up, and the basement's down, etc.
You know the blueprints.
This house, you have no fucking idea where anything is. Everyone's just coming in through a door and a window, and they're getting nails to the groin.
And he finds miraculously the enormous craftsman toolbox.
That's right, of course, yes, yeah. And
which, look, any tradie worth his salt, you are not leaving that toolbox at the house.
Let alone
you are taking that home. Let alone in the city of New York, the crime-ridden hellhole.
Let alone
if you I believe it says Operation Murder. Oh no!
Operation Ho Ho Ho. So
pretty dark.
He decides also to have the tool chest, which he's managed to get up the top of the stairs, Liam. Up the top of the stairs. Now I don't know, but tool chests are heavy. And
I've never used a tool in my life.
Even if you're up there, even if you're doing work on there, you just take the required tool and ascend the stairs.
You don't take the whole set.
You don't take the entire tool chest with all the ratchets and the spatters and all the heavy things. Anyway, so he leads them in, but it's a trap, and they should probably be aware of this at the moment. Be like, you know what? Last time we saw this guy,
he had lots of traps.
He kicked the shit out of us with traps. So why don't we
let's run in blindly?
Hey, let's leave. Let's go. There's nothing keeping us here. But we've already got the sack of cash. But instead, they decided.
And if not, who's going to believe some small young boy anyway?
Yeah. Well, without going into all of the sort of failings of the bandits,
because there's lots of them.
Well, do you have a favourite particular trap?
Yes, my favourite. I love it when Kevin he just keeps it simple, and you'll see if we manage to go back on his Operation Ho 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 map by the front door, it just says a big hole.
Big hole.
That's my favourite. Daniel Stern opens it. There's a big hole, and he falls in the big hole.
I know
it's simple, it's practical, it's doable.
Yes.
And yet it's just so perfect. He falls in the big hole. Who opens a door and doesn't look first and go, I shall take a step? They just swing it open willy-nilly, and oh shit, I've fallen in a big hole.
I'm aware of when you do renovations of a house.
Yes.
But I feel like whoever is in charge of this site, by just putting a large hole by the doorway without any sort of barrier or anything,
signage.
The next contractor coming, the guy doing the lights has got to walk straight in the hole, straight in the basement. He hasn't committed any crime.
It's just a series of corpses in the basement of various tradesmen who've come in and just fallen in the big hole.
It's a dark mansion where nothing really makes any sense, but we sort of go with it regardless. My favourite trap is when Joe Pesci walks through the back door and has his beanie set alight.
Head set on fire.
Yes.
Of course, call back to the first movie.
Now, he decides at that point...
He's got a scorched noggin.
Yeah, he's like, my head's on fire. He looks in the mirror to confirm that his head's on fire. Now, Joe Pesci being, at this point, probably a 61-year-old stout man, looks in the mirror and thoughts, hey, there's a toilet there. Should I collapse to my knees and dip my head in the toilet? No, I'm going to do a full handstand acrobatic and dip myself in slowly. And
surprise, kerosene.
Kerosene, kaboom. And there's a great Windows boom.
I forgot about the slow handstand.
Comically black face, not in the
bad sense.
This is
okay. This is all right, blackface. That's fine.
And continues
not
on.
That the censors at the MPAA would let you do it anymore.
It goes on in his merry way. There's also Marv. It is Marv, isn't it? Yeah, Harry and Marv. Yeah. Marv, where he slips on the slippery floor and does a big slip, but then lands on the floor. For some reason, momentum carries him at great speed towards the shelf. Now, if you're heading towards a shelf full of paint, you would think you just use your legs, which are already poked in that direction, to stop yourself from the shelf.
Now, Naggy, whenever we incur a situation like that in life, you would say, I would think that I would do that. But until you've been there, Naggy, until you have slid on your bum on a slippery floor towards a wall of paint
at 85
you
kilometers
don't
an
know
hour.
how
Yeah.
you'd react.
Of course, he slides
You
into the
don't
shelf.
know.
The entire paint thing falls onto his face. He eats a lot of it.
I believe a lot of it's varnish.
A lot of it's
of varnish, and then they stick shit to him.
Well, he has a moment. He says, and he's just got paint everywhere, and then he gets electrocuted in a very John Hughes way. Call back to Planes Trains, where he's electrocuted, and then to the point at which he is an actual skull with the same amount of hair. It's still screaming, which I enjoy immensely. I think he's done a wonderful job there. But just having to the point, you get electrocuted, of course, you turn into a skeleton momentarily, and then return back to your physical form. But then he manages to coerce them up to the rooftop. And says, why don't you climb down? There's lots of climbing up a rope.
That's where my bricks are.
Climbing up a rope and down a rope.
Well, of course, Joe Pesci tries to go up the fire escape, but he's coated in some green goo.
Of course, the green
Which I think they just had left over from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Slippery goo.
Oh, that was the purple goo, sorry.
Slippery goo, of course, and he slides right off. The goo falls in
Every
his
good
face.
tradesman has to have a tub of slippery goo at all times. Yeah.
Marv tries to climb up just a slack rope. They try to climb down a slack rope. None of these men are
climbing up a
athletes.
slack rope is one of the hardest
Or
things you
down.
can do.
It's incredibly difficult.
The
But
upper
then
body strength of these men, good lord.
They
They should have
realise
just throttled a boy.
that they also the same kerosene has been dipped in the rope,
And he
and then he lights it on. But they're still not deadly. They try to kill these men on several occasions.
Science needs to study these men and try and replicate whatever it is that keeps them alive.
What is it? I don't know. So they chase him. But then Kevin says on the phone, "Don't worry, I've decided to do the sensible thing and call the police."
Finally.
And he simply says, "I know where the guys who robbed the toy shop are.
And he tells
they're in
them-
Central Park. Does not give a street. Just says Central Park. They've got a gun." If I'm receiving that call of 000 New York, I'm saying, who the fuck cares?
And not only that,
there's 9 crimes a fucking
Well,
hour.
that's it. At this time in Central Park, at this time in history, let's go, yeah, everyone's got a gun in Central
Everyone's
Park.
got a gun.
Go away. Tell me when you've been murdered. Then we'll maybe do something
They're
about
like,
it.
we're dealing with mass murderers
Yeah.
out there, and you're talking of gangland shootings. You're talking about people that robbed a toy store. We're not sending any cars tonight.
You're up Toy Donkin's chest. There's a Son of Sam killer out there we need to take care of
We've been
first.
short shifting at the police station for days. We don't have the people.
Reagan cut all the funding. Hey, Reagan shut all the mental hospitals and they all went into Central Park and they've all got guns. Go away, young boy.
So he chases into the pub, but he gets caught. You see, he slips on the ice, which is a little bit of a Schadenfreude by the banners as well, because he slips over in a very, very comical way, and then he lands on his back, and
They
then
always land on their bum.
again they just usher him into the park like they're just going to be like, yeah, and they talk about we're going to kill him. Just I don't know,
Do it.
pissed whip the man, like they pissed whip the boy. He's right there. Do what you want to do with him there. Don't wait and tell him anything else. But who lives in Central Park, Liam? She's left Carnegie Hall. She wants to go back out to the park.
She was sick of watching the symphony.
It's the charming Irish lady. We worked out her name before. She's an Pigeon lady. She's the Academy Award winner.
Brendan Fricker.
Brenda Frickin. And we might have to bleep that. But then, as you said, she's weaponized these birds at this point, Liam. She throws
She hurls birdseed at them.
Yeah.
And because, of course, they've fallen with the wall of varnish and paint, the birdseed sticks.
Sticks.
And then the birds just go fucking mental on
At
it.
one stage
like
they
that
did-
famous movie of Alfred Hitchcock, Birdman. I think it was.
The Revenge of the Birdman. They pull a gun. There's why don't you shoot her? The gun's full of gack and sludge. So it
It's
doesn't
gacked up
work.
the gun.
Gacked up the gun. I hate when that happens.
Again, it's Central Park, though. Someone walks past, hey, can I borrow your gun? Yeah, here you go.
Here it is.
Bang,
Bang,
done.
bang.
Movie's over.
Kevin's dead. Bird lady's dead. You're surrounded by birds, but you
The
wave.
wet bandits go free again.
You wave your hands in the air for 12 seconds. The birds fly away. They're not killer birds, but for some reason they land on both the bandits. The bandits scream their life out as if they're being literally pecked away.
Some people have a very justified fear of birds, Naggy.
Yeah, well, it's scary, but it's still
Yeah.
like you've just survived so many like life-altering injuries.
Prison, they've survived that.
Prison.
Yeah.
They've been in jail. They're not
And not only
scared
that,
of
they were in
birds.
jail for assaulting a child that had been raped silly. That shit doesn't go unnoticed
No,
in jail.
that's right. It's down very, very low.
Maybe beat that.
You demonetized immediately. So the police arrive, sirens going. They say, "Here they are." I know you said just Central Park, but we found the right corner of it immediately that had road access, which is very, very fortuitous because it wasn't deep or anything. It was just all right.
Just right on the edge there.
And off that phone call, we found you being attacked by birds. You must be criminals because we're aware of everyone.
Covered in feathers? Yes, that's enough for me. So lock them up.
You must be the two that were escaped jail back in Chicago. Because as a police officer, I'm aware of that sort of thing.
I've seen you on the front page of the New York newspaper.
The New York newspaper, yeah. Very, very famous.
Yeah.
And so they go away and they confess their crimes in a very, very comical way. Now, Kevin is basically left there and he doesn't again say, can anyone call my mum? He just says, well, I'm just in New York. I better go watch a Christmas tree now. But Catherine O'Hara, who's
the
had
Christmas tree at 30 Rockefeller?
I think it is Rockefeller, yeah. And then she's had a great exchange with Tim Curry where she said, what kind of idiots do you have working here? He says, the finest
in New York.
And then when he says, but madam, there's hardened criminals out there, armed to the teeth. And then she slaps him. And then he has a great, crying with his teeth welled up. He says, do bundle up, it's awful cold outside. And he's just holding back a cry with his mouth, which is wonderful, Tim.
And then what does he say to her? She say to him? She has some great line where it's like, oh, there's hardened criminals out there with guns. And she's like,
it's your fault.
Don't care.
She says, if I run into any of them, I'll do more to them than they do to me. Probably not. Probably,
it's well established. She doesn't give one shit about her child. She's not going to even discipline them.
No. She's just, all she cares about is basically making up for her past mistakes. So then she runs into Kevin at the Christmas tree. She talks to a police officer, says, why don't you help me? He says, no. She says, are you a parent? He says, yes. He says, all right. And then she just basically just taxi cabs to they run to Kevin, big hug, and she's like, I promise I probably won't yell at you for at least the next 9 months. And then they say,
bam, Home Alone 3.
We're going back to the plaza, that place where those people chased you out and you pretended to shoot them, but they're over that now. They've welcomed you back in because they're feared of being sued.
And then this immensely wealthy family puts up all 15 family members in the one suite.
One suite.
There's people there's bodies strewn across the room like it's Fallujah,
and it's
it's just blood and bone everywhere.
But don't worry, because Kevin had left a note saying, guess what, Mr. Duncan, you were friendly to me for a moment and I smashed your window clean open. Your money was insured, but you're going to have to pay for your window out of your own pocket. He's like, what a lovely kid that was. And he decides to set the family up with a whole lot of presents in the morning that they sneak into a room of 35 people without anyone realizing. And they're like, oh, who's done
Santa
this?
Claus.
They're like, Kevin's done this with his weird old man friend, Mr. Touch Tits.
Old Titty Duncans.
Old Titty Duncans come in here and planted all these presents. Again, a lot of these children mainly being buzzed. He does the thing with Rob Schneider.
Uncle Frank's pulled him aside. Hey, Duncan, what's your trick?
Yeah. Uncle Frank's opens his presents well, I don't want a toy. I'm 56 years old. Buzz goes, hey, I'm 37. I don't want a bloody Christmas tree ornament. But they all open up.
Everyone gets Ferris wheels.
Yeah, and they have to close off the story, of course, with the homeless, charming woman, the Academy Award winner. And so Kevin's like, I can see her outside. I'm going to go down. Should I invite her up? No, I'll just say, bye, here's a bird, bye.
I have an enormous money wallet. Should I give her anything to maybe find a bed for the night?
Yeah.
Here's that stupid little plaster of Paris bird that the guy gave me because he's the worst business person on earth. Goodbye. I will never see you again.
Don't come up and be like, hey, you actually saved my life. Why don't you meet my family? He's like, have this bird and remain homeless for the remainder of yours, which is probably only going to be 2 weeks. So
Forever alone.
Forever alone.
Forever alone.
Goodbye.
Alone again, naturally.
He says, I didn't catch your name. She said, I didn't give it. He's like, I guess we didn't really know each other that well anyway. But good luck loving a new person. Life lessons, life lessons. I'm 10 years old. And you smell like bird shit. That's Carnegie Hall. Carnegie Hall, they're looking up. They're like, can you smell shit? I paid $256 for this scene. Look, I smell bird shit. But Liam, with this sad note, it brings me to the end of this wonderful, wonderful Christmas film, which is a film, despite all its flaws, it's wonderful.
I had a great time watching it. Because I don't think I'd seen it since I first saw it as a youth, as a young Liam. I hadn't seen it since then, and I'm very glad that we did because, goddamn, it was a good fun watch.
It's a great film of credit card fraud and really uncomfortable adults talking to a child like an adult.
Very inappropriate adult behaviour at every turn.
And
parental neglect.
Parental neglect.
A good heavy hit of parental neglect.
Touch of threats of violence or
little
murder.
Bit of racism.
A little bit of racism. There's not an African American person in this film. Sorry, I think the police officer is at the very end for basically a cameo. But otherwise, it's just a very, very...
John Hughes is like, shit, we got to put one in.
Write it in quickly.
Joe Pesci after the explosion.
Yeah, he does blackface.
Another bit of a racist...
He danced for a while. They said, Joe, we have to cut this out.
Another bit of a racist thing. We needed a terrible, violent criminal. Let's get an Italian.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's what they did in New York. And also, Marv says when he goes, Merry Christmas, Harry. He goes, Happy Hanukkah, Marv. If it's a Christmas film, we'll just throw someone in of a Jewish persuasion. So there is a very collective, wonderful film. I do still to this day believe it is superior to the first one, even though it's based.
Whoa.
I made that claim at the beginning of the podcast, Liam.
I wasn't listening. We've been here a long while.
We have been there a long while. We thank you very much, all you jousters, for
Merry Crimbits.
Staying with us. Merry Christmas. Make sure that you head off to the Wickham Park Hotel to enjoy Christmas Eve with Gravy City, to enjoy everything that is about Christmas, family, being together and drinking.
Schooners of beer.
Cold, freezing cold schooners of beer. Delicious on this sweltering.
At an affordable price too. I remember going there for bloody Gavin Morton's birthday. Got pissed. I don't think I spent $50.
No, didn't. Not a pound left
in this economy, in this day and age, bloody brilliant, fantastic. That was Cade's birthday, so Cade Hines.
Kate Hines. Thank you.
Not Gavin Morton.
Hopefully, Justice will be seeing you in the new year to cover everything Newcastle Nice, but you might be seeing us before then when we look forward to it. Thank you very much for joining us once again. To play us out, please, as always, our Christmas musical guest, Mr. Bone in Ham.
Lost in New York. Now's the end of the podcast. Lost in New York. Now's the end of the podcast.